We're 90 days away from the best time to sell your home in Minnesota. The people that plan ahead get better options and better outcomes. We'll give you the strategy we're giving sellers right now to help you net tens of thousands of dollars more. We have 30 plus sellers right now strategizing for the spring market. And also I have a story about a property last year that didn't strategize correctly and lost tens of thousands of dollars. We'll cover what part of the spring market is best for your property, things that you can do right now to help prep and prepare your home for that time period, and also the most important part, what questions you should be asking yourself and your family before even getting into any of this. Stay to the end and I'll tell you the story of a property who did it the wrong way. Josh has been listing and selling homes for over 20 years now, and that time frame is a fickle thing. There's times when it makes sense for your property based on what it is. Seasonality changes based off when snow goes out. A ton of different factors come into when exactly the right time is, and it changes every year. Tell me about what you think and what you're seeing this year, what you're telling sellers right now.
So generally, it's really going to depend on the type of property it is for the most part. You get your home that is in a neighborhood or in a community development. A lot of those are kind of, I always generally say the first week after the Super Bowl or when it starts to get a little bit warmer, check with your agent and watch inventory. What is inventory looking like at that point in time? If it's still really low and it's starting to warm up, I would be getting my house on the market relatively quick. Probably now, so you beat that inventory rush that's going to come. So now you're the only one buyers are going to look at because they are excited. They've been cooped up in their home for 2 months. They are ready to get out and start looking at a house. We start stepping into like a lake home. I may push that time frame a little bit longer, wait for that first ice out. You can start to see what the beach looks like, things like that. That is kind of that time frame I tee my sellers up with a lake property. Acreage, kind of similar thing where buyers can get out and explore. If it's still a little froze out, that's fine, but some of the snow is gone. That is definitely a big plus so they can get out and explore the areas on the property.
One of the most important parts of that is like you can't just take the rule of thumb as I'm waiting till May.
Right.
Because the problem with May is this: if we have an early spring, or sometimes in years past, we've had like this weird rush at like the end of February or early March. Because what happens is this is like when you're the first new property in on the spring market, there's a ton of buyers that have been out there, right?
Yep.
If you wait too long and you make it to the end of May, all your neighbors may have listed already, and all those buyers have seen these homes, and that like feeding frenzy can start to slow down. So judging that and being ready to go, hey, this market is heating up. Nobody in your neighborhood is listed yet. I think we can do this right now, and we'll get the best opportunity that we have. That's exactly the strategy you should take.
And you start pushing too long and you hit that May, and all of a sudden June, we hit graduation season, and that you've missed the first 3 months where you should have already been on and probably sold and moved already. You start hitting that summer, June, July, and we do have that lull in the summer a little bit. We've really seen it this year in 2025 where July was incredibly slow for some odd reason. Normally it doesn't last that long, and then August and September it started to pick up again. So making sure your timing and watching that market is really, really important.
But I think the biggest misunderstanding that people have as Minnesotans, right, is like, okay, it slows down in the wintertime because nobody wants to move. They don't realize that it also slows down in the middle of summer,
right?
Because everybody's gone out enjoying the summertime and on vacation. There are two lulls in the Minnesota market and the Wisconsin market, and one of them is in the dead of summer.
Yep.
So don't be too late to get your house on the market where all of a sudden, hey, I'm not prepped, I'm not ready, my house doesn't look good, and you go on in July. It is typically pretty slow during that time.
And then you start to hit that panic pricing, and I listed at the end of May, and now I hit panic pricing, and I'm reducing and costing myself thousands.
So when it comes to strategies to be taking right now, what can sellers do right now to prep and be ready for the spring market?
So the big thing is really start decluttering, get rid of the personal things. You know you're going to need to do that. A lot of times I always tell sellers is, what are all the things you've wanted to do while you've lived in this house? Most likely you probably need to be doing that now. Or if the house is if you're in decent condition, maybe it's just to touch up the paint and get the home brought into today's times. If you're really planning and prepping this and want to maximize your dollar amount, those are some of the things that would make sense to start doing that now. Also get us in there to help you make those decisions. I had a seller last year that he was getting his house ready for sale, and what he thought he needed to do and what I suggested were two totally different things, and saved him tons of money. If he was going to replace his deck and he was going to change out some windows, and instead I suggested just let's do some paint, let's do some flooring, and put the house on the market. We sold in multiple offers. He spent $7,000 versus $25,000 and also got more money than he fully expected to start with.
So when it comes to all this planning, prepping, and strategizing, the most important part is you need to ask yourself some questions before you even get started on this. I think the biggest thing we see sellers make a mistake on. I think that they have to do is like, should you do this now or not? Why are you doing it? Because what happens if you haven't made that decision right now, you'll wait until you see something fancy on Zillow and go, I'm going to see this property, right? And then you're not going to be prepped. You're not going to be ready. Then all of a sudden, you're going to be contingent on the sale of that house. You're going to have your house ready super quickly. So here's some things that we'll ask you, or you can ask yourself just to understand, does this make sense for you? So the biggest thing is like, why do you want to move? Usually it's this. It's like, oh, we're outgrowing this house, or it's too big for us. You know, maybe we should move. And I think the biggest thing that stops people a lot of time is going, well, I'll wait until this, or this, then I will do this. And I think a lot of times that have came up with that is interest rates. So with that, we just did a video last week on forecasts for the 2026 market and interest rates. So there's this. Interest rates are probably going to level out at 6%. Maybe we see them a little bit lower, but the thought of I'll wait until interest rates are at 4% is tough to do because one, we may not see that again. And two, if interest rates do go down, prices will then go up. So the longer you wait, the more expensive the house is most likely going to be. And if you're waiting just for interest rates, well, when is that going to be? So I think there's that thought to kind of ask yourself to go, how long are we willing to stay here? And will it actually be better in the future? The other piece is just really understanding, hey, what does our financial profile look like? Like, can we afford the thing that we want? And a couple of things you need to know when it comes to that is how much are we going to be able to sell our home for? Knowing this, that since the pandemic in Minnesota, equity has risen by 43%. The stat, that's astounding. That's a lot. Not everybody knows exactly how much they will take away from the sale of their property, which is really important for you to be able to understand what that next monthly payment is going to be like. So what you can do is just understand that a little bit to go, all right, the houses that we do like are in this price range. Here's with our equity what that payment will be. Okay. Then go, all right, are we comfortable with that payment? Can we afford that? Well, if we can't, then maybe we shouldn't be looking at all anyways. Or also we look at that, go, oh my gosh, we can afford this payment. It actually isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And also I would love to be in that house. Well, then maybe it makes sense for you to do it. So asking yourself some of those simple questions, doing some calculations and figuring out what it is will help put you in the right decision framework to understand, should we do this now or should we not? And then from there, you can prep and be ready and get yourself a better situation and a less stressful one for sure. Here's a property last year that didn't strategize and do the right thing and lost themselves tens of thousands of dollars. This was a person that had reached out to me in the fall, said they were doing updates to their property and they wanted to list later on. This house was vacant. So in reality, it was like, well, we probably could just put it on right now. What updates are you doing? They never really let me know kind of thing. And they did some updates that I actually don't think they needed to do, but they did them anyways because I thought it was really helpful for the property. But painting your garage is not a big value add, to be honest with you, when the flooring looks the way it does. So they spent 2 months doing that as this property was vacant. So now we're getting into the early part of January. Not that big of a deal. Winter, Christmas time isn't super ideal to do it. So let's wait until January. So had the conversation with January and they go, hey, we're going to go for sale by owner. Don't want to pay a commission kind of thing. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I even show you like, this is what you'll have to deal with, you know, or here's what that looks like. Make sure you have the HOA documents because it's a townhome. Make sure you have a lockbox. Make sure you coordinate showings kind of thing. Do those few things. You'll be all right. And they chose a price that was significantly too high. We want to try the market at this price. And I will never recommend that as a strategy for anybody. And they tried that price and they were the only house on the market at that time. So they tried it, didn't really get showings. Month goes by. Now we're getting into February or March, right at like the peak kind of buyer season for a townhome in the area that it was in. It was like, this is the time where you should adjust. And they hadn't adjusted. And they go, hey, we're going to hire an agent kind of thing. Ended up not being me. They never even met with me. They called somebody else and just hired them. Went back on at that same price. They were still way too high. Now, at this point, 4 of their properties got listed and sold in their neighborhood, just like identical to theirs for like $15,000 less. So they finally then make the price correction down to where those other properties sold. But the problem is now they're on the market in June doing this or like late May, and there's now 5 other properties that are identical to theirs. So what happens when a property that's been listed for 120 days is at the same price as other properties? People will go to the other properties. You now have to be less than those properties. So when they initially listed it, I think it was $290,000. I think they ended up selling for $255,000. Weren't able to do it for sale by owner. Had to pay an agent to do that. And they were on the market, I think, until August, actually. And this thing could have been sold at the price they took in November. I can almost guarantee you that when they first started doing this, without doing the updates, without doing all the things, without spending 6 months with a vacant home paying HOA fees, it probably would have sold right away. And that's what happens, I think, when you don't take the right strategy kind of thing, it can be that difference of you could have sold it for this and it would have been quick and it would have sold for more. But now that we are in a market that has a bunch of competition and you're old news, you have to be under those properties or you have to update them even more. And that's when taking the wrong strategy can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Click the link below to get your personalized seller prep checklist. Answer 3 questions about your property and get a customized checklist just for your property. It's completely free.